What if I told you that the Elusive Samurai and the Odyssey actually have a really strong connection? And it's after watching the Odyssey that I actually came to this realization that they're way more similar than what I thought. But it's interesting how things are playing out. Because if you kind of think about it, well, the Odyssey is on its way to basically being one of the movies of the year. A bunch of awards are probably going to head its way. It's the talk of the town. It's a really, well, just awesome movie, and it's a big hit. But then on the other side, the Elusive Samurai is, to be nice, it's an anime that is struggling for relevancy, given the fact that it's on its second season and no one really is talking about it like that.
Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button, and to subscribe, and the post notification button.
Now, the thing about this is that I have been watching The Elusive Samurai for a long time, and I'm actually caught up to the second season. But funnily enough, it just so happened that while watching an episode of The Elusive Samurai, on the same day I decided to go watch The Odyssey. But there's something that I left the cinema thinking about. In fact, while watching the movie, I kind of correlated it to The Elusive Samurai, and it got my mind really thinking a lot. Because one of the lessons that is actually really emphasized within the story of The Odyssey, and it's one of the most important ones, is patience. The ability of knowing when to choose your battles, knowing when to strike, knowing when to sit back and observe the situation before you make your move. Arguably speaking, this is one of the most pivotal things within the Odyssey. It happens multiple times throughout the story. I'm not going to spoil, don't worry. But also in terms of just history, knowing when to choose your battles is one of the most important things. It's one of the reasons why a lot of historical individuals are known, because it helped them succeed in a sense. That is one of the main points of the Elusive Samurai. In fact, that was something that actually made it really unique the first time when it came out. Instead of the usual MC who's this dude who'll charge in and he's really brave and he's about fighting and he's this person who's gonna stand while everyone runs away, our MC in this anime is a dude who runs away. And it's kind of weird because he's kind of fighting, but like he's running away, but not really. And it's really difficult to kind of get behind that dude because he's essentially running around his opponents and dodging them the whole time, which is pretty impressive defensively. But offensively, it's kind of like, this is not really gonna inspire me the usual way an MC does. But there's more to it. Because in watching the Odyssey, what we notice is that there are many times where Odysseus has opportunities to just go gung-ho in many situations, but he doesn't. Instead, he chooses to observe a lot of things and decide when is the proper time to strike. Actually, if you kind of think about it, this is, well, the movie, real big points that I'm not going to spoil about, is like the Trojan War, where basically I don't think I'm spoiling anyone here, but they basically finessed a bunch of people into thinking they're getting a gift. That is one of the most pivotal points within the movie, but also, well, relatively speaking, it's about patience because they were stuck inside a horse and you know what I mean. But it's patience, knowing that this eventually will give them an opportunity to be successful. The Elusive Samurai emphasized this from the beginning, because if we think about this story, it's the story of a young individual going up against men who are feared by other men. But based on the things that have happened, it was the perfect plan. This kid just so happened to escape because he's really good, but generally speaking, he shouldn't be alive. And in his journey of trying to reclaim his position once again to be the one, well, technically he was an heir, but you know what I mean. He needs to find a way to beat those people. But the problem is he's a kid, but also he doesn't have the resources, he doesn't have the army, he doesn't have the backing to combat people who came up with this plan to overthrow people who are way more experienced than him. But generally, this is something that a kid shouldn't be thinking about. And I think in one of the episodes, one of the kids said that most of them are 10 years old. 10 years old going against real dudes. That's not probably gonna work out. And I know this whole thing that anime likes to push sometimes, that like a kid is gonna beat some battle-hardened, mature man who's been unaliving other men. Yeah, that usually doesn't happen. But the thing about the Elusive Samurai is that as weird as it is, it's an anime that is trying to stick towards an actual story in which an individual did go on to basically overcome those circumstances and be successful, because then we wouldn't be talking about them, we'd be talking about the other dude. This means that this this character is about to do the impossible, the unfathomable, something that is basically like an underdog story, but it requires them to be patient, but it also requires them to know when to run away. And this is one of the things that this anime emphasizes, the ability of knowing when to pick your battles, being evasive, being disguised, all of the things that you think don't necessarily mesh well with actiony sort of anime where individuals are fighting, people are being like cut up and stuff like that. You don't expect your MC to be hiding in plain sight and basically going against the concept of what we know. Generally speaking, an MC is this person who's going to go against the grain, regardless of like the circumstances. Even if there's a 50 billion gajillion dudes, he's still gonna be like, I'm gonna fight all of y'all. He's not doing that. Understandably, it does make sense because at this point, and this is something that I actually came to the realization of after watching the Odyssey a bit more, is that this individual, this MC, the success of him is really fundamentally linked to other characters within the story. Because if you think about it, should he do something a bit brash or make a mistake, he's not only going to affect his life, he's going to affect everyone else's life who chose to back him. And as such, there's this real pressure of really understanding that these people have put their lives on the line to support your ambition and your ability to be a leader. And that is something that really hit me a lot about this anime after seeing the Odyssey, where you see a bunch of stuff where this individual, specifically Odysseus, is dealing with the issues of leadership. This then gives the Elusive Samurai a bit more depth than what it usually has. I think the whole thing about the Elusive Samurai is that it's one of those anime where it sounds better than it actually is to watch it, because with the first season, I said a while back that it's like a hidden gem because it's got like really good animation, it looks fantastic, the leader's running away and lands on others, it's a little weird, and also it's a very wacky, almost like you're on something type of anime, so it's totally different. But the real question is, how long can that entertain people for a bunch of seasons? And it seems like after one season, people are kind of like, okay, that was a cool story, but I'm kind of cool. And fundamentally, if you think about it, it does rely on the fact of, do you like Japanese history in terms of wars and stuff like that? Do you care that much about the theatrical like appeal of the aesthetic? Maybe you feel like it doesn't have the substance, you won't care. If you like wacky things but feel like it's not as comedic as a wacky anime should be, it's not going to be for you. And as such, there's a lot of limiting factors, including the MC who goes against the grain of what a usual MC does in terms of just fighting the odds. You would genuinely feel like, I don't really want to watch this anime because I don't even like the MC like that. But you're kind of wrong, because in terms of the aspect of MCs that we like to talk about them fighting the odds and kind of them being a bit more different, he is fighting the odds. Because the thing about this, especially also similar to the Odyssey, is that you will know what the result is. He's going to be successful. He's going to beat the odds. At this point, he's basically the underdog, but we know some way, somehow he's going to pull it off. But the question is, an individual of his sort of standing, a dude who's evasive, how does he do it? He's just 10 plus years old. It's just that he's doing things in a bit more realistic and kind of more calculated manner, who's going to lead this charge, but also not be too straightforward to the point that he's basically risking his life and everyone else's life. And it's way more harder compared to what other anime tend to show, where it's like dude will just run in there and his friends are like, oh, well, okay, let's go too. It's not the same. This is something that I've grown to appreciate after watching the Odyssey, where especially within the second season, there's a lot of patient building. Things are ramping up now, but I kind of felt like, okay, like you're not really doing much, you're just kind of hiding and, you know, doing certain stuff. But those are the things that are going to build up into one of the reasons why this is going to be a beautiful underdog story of an individual overcoming multiple odds. And even within the Odyssey, for example, look at Odysseus' son. He had to limit himself just because of his age. Generally speaking, there's so many factors that are working against the MC and the crew, and you have to come to the realization that this has to be a patient, calculated game for them to succeed. They don't have the men, they don't have the necessary resources. Their leader is a kid and basically he's inexperienced, going against a monster of a man and a monster of a crew. And I think that this is one of the most beautiful things about the anime, where like the crew is highlighted. It's not just only the leader who's powerful. The crews that these individuals have, including the MC, are highlighted. Like you have to have really strong men and women around you to be successful. And as such, our MC has to gather those people, allow them to gain experience, and also eventually have the capability of of competing against more hardened, more veteran sort of individuals who will not even bat an eyelid to just unaliving someone. This has kind of given the Elusive Samurai sort of a different view on it, because a lot of people actually really appreciate the aspect of the Odyssey in terms of the in-between more than the final results. Really, it's satisfying, but if you think about it, it's those moments where Odysseus had to really hold back, look at certain things that sort of captivates the audience into having this sort of connection of like, bear through this moment until it helps you be successful because you're rooting for Odysseus. The same thing can happen for this MC within this anime, where you understand that he has to basically play certain roles, hide his name, basically not be the MC that you would want him to be for an opportunity to finally strike, because eventually he will have to strike. After watching the Odyssey, it allowed me to have a greater appreciation for what the Elusive Samurai does, because when we think about certain things, especially in terms of like history and stuff that has happened, you have to understand that some of the people who went on to be extremely successful and the people that we know them to be are people who chose their battles, people who ran away, people who understood that they have to be very selective about opportunities and their circumstances in order to be victorious. And the thing that we like the most in terms of stories are individuals who overcome the odds, individuals who are able to basically surpass all of the limitations that were placed in front of them to be successful. And the Elusive Samurai is one of the anime where this is done. If you're able to appreciate some of the things that happen within the Odyssey and enjoy them, you might end up having an affinity towards what is happening within the Elusive Samurai. I'm not saying that it's going to be the best anime ever, but I do think that it is underrated right now because of some of the things that actually make it great at this point.